It's like, where is the mic? Where is the mic? At one point she yelled, give me a fucking mic. And they didn't give it to her.
Woof.
Prince Harry stands firm, his voice measured, each word landing with quiet confidence. All eyes are fixed on him. The atmosphere feels formal, focused, and quietly intense.
And there's this guy with the purple jacket is trying to block her from going on stage.
Wow.
Then, without so much as a signal, Meghan Markle walks straight onto the stage, no intro, no glance from the host, just pure audacity that steals every ounce of air from the room.
And she goes around him. She even ignores him.
Again, I have to be careful what I say, but...
She ignores the guy.
Harry freezes for a moment, his shoulders tightening. He turns slightly, acknowledging her presence, but the microphone stays in his hand. This time, he doesn't let it go.
Now, Harry has full control of the mic. When Meghan walked on stage, she could have said, oh, here's my wife, and hand over the microphone. Did he do it? No.
The crowd doesn't cheer. They don't move. It's the kind of silence that feels electric, because everyone knows they're watching something no royal statement will ever admit. The tension between the Duke and Duchess playing out live.
This guy right behind Harry, the same guy that rejected to give her the mic last year, is looking at her and he doesn't care.
For years, everyone knew the story. Harry was the one who stepped back so Meghan could shine. Every time she took the spotlight, he moved aside without hesitation.
It's really quite sad.
Like, I curtsied as though I was like, pleasure to meet you, Your Majesty. Like, was that okay?
But not this night. This time, the script flipped completely. The reaction wasn't what Meghan expected. No applause, no polite smiles, just a cold, piercing silence that felt more like a warning than a pause.
I like working hard.
You keep saying Meghan Markle, you know I'm Sussex now.
And here's the real twist. What happened on that stage wasn't the ending, it was the spark. That single moment triggered a chain of embarrassment, quiet media rewrites, and whispers of betrayal that followed long after the lights faded. And if you thought the silence in that room was brutal, wait until you hear what's being said behind closed doors. Because what comes next isn't just awkward, it's the clearest sign yet that the polished image Harry and Meghan built is starting to crumble.
Insiders are revealing to me the true story of how Meghan Markle failed.
Do you think Harry refusing to hand Meghan the microphone was his first real sign of pushing back? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Prince Harry stood mid-speech, his delivery smooth, his expression steady. Everything felt under control until Meghan made her move. Out of nowhere, she walked straight onto the stage, unannounced, confident, and determined to be seen. But the reaction wasn't awe, it was confusion. The room froze, unsure of what was happening. For a split second, even Harry looked thrown off. His eyes narrowed, the calm in his face fading as he realized what she was doing. Meghan placed her hand gently on his back, a familiar signal that she wanted the mic, one that in the past always ended with Harry stepping aside. But this time, his hand tightened. His posture shifted. Instead of yielding, he kept talking. That quiet refusal, small enough to miss unless you were paying attention, hit like a jolt. It wasn't anger, it was change. A moment that silently redrew the balance between them.
And she's going around causing trouble, looking for a mic. Where is the mic? With that absolutely manic smile on her face.
Right there, under the glare of flashing cameras, the mood in the room flipped instantly. What should have been a smooth, united moment suddenly turned uncomfortable, like watching a silent argument play out in front of everyone. Meghan kept a smile, but her hand lingered on his back just long enough to show she wasn't ready to let go. Harry, meanwhile, stayed focused on the audience, refusing to break. In that brief exchange, everything changed. The power balance between them shifted, and everyone could feel it. The room stayed quiet. No applause, no polite laughs, not even a soft murmur, just silence. Sharp, heavy, and impossible to ignore. Meghan stood beside Harry, her smile still frozen in place, waiting for some kind of reaction she thought was guaranteed. Seconds dragged on like minutes, the tension thickening with every heartbeat. It was the kind of silence that said more than any words could. Harry pushed through his speech, steady and deliberate, pretending nothing was wrong. Meghan lingered under the spotlight, clearly expecting acknowledgement, a nod, a smile, anything, but the room stayed still. Not one person dared to break the silence.
See, there's Harry telling her to back off. You see his hand here, below his big face, pointing at her, telling her to stay back.
The crowd wasn't angry, it was worse. They didn't care, and in the royal world, that kind of silence cuts deeper than hate. With nothing left to grab onto, Meghan shifted her weight, gave Harry a quick glance, and stepped back toward the side of the stage. The walk wasn't long, but it looked endless. Every step felt like surrender. a quiet sign that the crowd had already picked its side and it wasn't hers. People who were there said the air turned ice cold. Everyone knew something had gone wrong, but no one dared move. Meghan's exit wasn't planned, and that made it sting even more. But that silence wasn't the end, it was just the start of what came next. By morning, the awkward moment was gone. The unedited clips vanished. Instead, polished photos flooded the headlines. Meghan smiling bright, Harry right beside her, both looking perfectly in sync. To anyone scrolling through, it looked flawless. The tension erased, the rejection invisible, the truth replaced by a picture-perfect illusion.
It is absolutely disgusting, this woman, in my very humble opinion, and that people are still not getting it. It's beyond the pale.
Social media, though, told another story. Uncut clips started spreading online, showing the real moment. Meghan stepping forward, the crowd freezing, Harry keeping his grip on the mic. The raw footage hit the internet and caught fire, racking up millions of views in just hours. The difference was impossible to miss. The official coverage showed calm and unity, while the online clips screamed tension. Critics claimed the press was protecting Meghan's image, covering up what could have been a huge PR disaster. Supporters pushed back, saying people were reading too much into it, that the silence wasn't as bad as it looked. But either way, the truth had split in two. One version aired on TV, the other exploded across social feeds, and that split wasn't by accident. Royal coverage has always been carefully shaped, but this time, it didn't just smooth the edges, it flipped the story completely. The question became impossible to ignore. If this moment was rewritten, how many others have been hidden? Because the deeper you dig, the clearer it gets. This was never just about one speech. It was about power and control. So what do you think? Did the media crop out Meghan's awkward moment to protect her or to hide something bigger? What happened on that stage wasn't just a stumble. It was a glimpse into a deeper crack that's been forming for years.
Here's what I would say about that. I think it's very important to shift this idea that play the opposite and make sure you can be taken seriously. My point in all of this is that no matter what you look like, you should be taken seriously.
For a long time, Harry was painted as the one who always made space for Meghan, constantly stepping back so she could shine. That night, though, something shifted. Right there in front of thousands, he drew a clear line and it said everything. It wasn't hesitation anymore, it was quiet resistance. That single moment spoke volumes. It hinted at a real power change, not just between them, but in how the world now looks at the two of them. Meanwhile, Harry's royal status only adds to the confusion. Officially, he's lost certain titles and roles, yet at high-profile global events, he's still introduced as Prince Harry with the kind of respect given to active royals. Those mixed messages have left him in a strange middle ground. He's not entirely in, but not completely out either. Standing next to him, Meghan seems even more like an outsider trying to step back into a world that's already moved on. According to palace insiders, that blurred status isn't an accident. They claim Buckingham Palace keeps things uncertain on purpose, acknowledging Harry when it suits them, pulling back when it doesn't. It keeps the headlines running, keeps people guessing, and makes sure the Sussexes stay part of the conversation. That brief clash on stage only made the tension clearer. Harry holding his ground in public sparked a question the palace didn't need to say out loud. Is he starting to lean toward the crown, or just tired of living in someone else's shadow?
Harry and Meghan specifically told media at the time of Archie's birth that they didn't want to give him a title because they wanted him to live a life as normal as possible.
No matter how you look at it, the cracks are showing. Behind the polished smiles and perfect photos, the real fights have nothing to do with microphones or public appearances. They're about family. People close to the couple say Harry is desperate for his kids to experience the same traditions he grew up with. He's even spoken about Eton, the elite British school attended by generations of royals, imagining Archie walking through the same halls he once did. For Harry, it's not just about education, it's about legacy, a connection to the life he left behind. Meghan, on the other hand, reportedly wants nothing to do with sending their children back to the UK. She prefers raising them in California, far from the royal bubble and all its rules. But the disagreement goes deeper than location. Insiders claim Meghan has shut down any talk of British schooling unless, as one source put it, certain conditions are met, whether that means money, security, or control. To some, it doesn't look like compromise, it looks like leverage. That tug-of-war has come to define their relationship. Meghan seems to hold the upper hand in private decisions, guiding the family's future with steady determination. Harry, once willing to follow her lead, is now beginning to push back. Friends describe him as quietly frustrated, torn between the freedom he chose and the roots he left behind. And the cruel twist, Their children have become the middle ground in a much bigger fight between loyalty and independence, rebellion and tradition.
But apparently for me, that doesn't matter.
I truly believe that when he met Meghan, she whispered into his ear, a 36-year-old mature woman whispered into his ear, "Harry, you and I could change the world."
Even though the audience only saw that brief moment when Harry held onto the microphone, people close to the couple claimed the real tension played out away from the cameras. Meghan's sudden step onto the stage had been daring, but what happened next was far more calculated. Behind the scenes, organizers made a quiet but deliberate change. For the rest of the night, Meghan was kept out of the spotlight. Instead of standing beside Harry as usual, she was moved to a seat off to the side, visible but no longer the center of attention. There was no public statement, yet everyone in the room understood what it meant. Her place had been reduced. From that moment on, the visuals told their own story. Her gown, designed to command attention, suddenly looked out of place under the harsh lights. Online, people noticed her tight smile, her distant eyes. While Harry mingled with guests, Meghan sat composed, clapping at the expected moments but clearly withdrawn. For someone once known for owning the stage, the silence around her felt like quiet humiliation. Commentators dissected every detail, the forced laughter, the tense posture, even the way her jewelry caught the flash of the cameras. It all seemed like a shadow of her former confidence. Supporters brushed it off as coincidence, but witnesses weren't fooled. None of it was accidental. The change was subtle, deliberate, and deeply telling.
Harry came from this very busy world of the royal family with lots to do. Even in his spare time, he could play polo and do whatever he wanted. He sat in Montecito, twiddling his thumbs, thinking, what do I do next? What is my role? Where is my work?
For the first time, Meghan wasn't just overlooked. She was deliberately pushed aside. And as the evening unfolded, it became clear the crowd had no interest in helping her reclaim the moment. But while Meghan faced the sting of being sidelined, the palace was already moving in its own direction. Within hours, headlines began to clash. Some outlets praised Harry, portraying him as a dignified prince, treated with the same respect he once commanded in the UK. Others painted the opposite picture, a man stripped of royal status and privilege. That confusion wasn't careless reporting, it was part of the plan. By keeping Harry's position uncertain, the palace keeps the conversation alive. Every appearance becomes a question mark. Will he be introduced with royal formality or treated like an outsider? That uncertainty fuels endless speculation, fills pages, and ensures the Sussexes never fully disappear from public focus. In this dynamic, Meghan becomes both valuable and volatile. Her presence draws global attention, yet every mistake becomes instant headlines. Observers say the palace learned from past controversies. Instead of cutting the couple off completely, they've chosen to keep them suspended. Close enough to stay relevant, but distant enough to hold no real influence. It's a familiar strategy, one once used with Sarah Ferguson, never fully welcomed back, yet never entirely gone. After the footage spread online, the palace went silent, at least in public. Behind those gates, though, phones lit up, advisors, press secretaries, and royal aides scrambled to do what they've always done best, control the story before it controlled them. There were no official statements, no corrections, just strategy. Within hours, the same institution that once protected Meghan's image began to rewrite the narrative completely. Insiders say private meetings were held late into the night. Senior courtiers wanted to know how something so small had spiraled into a global headline, but instead of defending the Sussexes, they focused on distance. Quietly, briefings were sent to a select circle of journalists, ones who knew how to stay loyal when it counted. The message was subtle but sharp. Protocol had been broken, and Meghan's behavior, though not named directly, had crossed a line. At the same time, a second message leaked. This one painting Harry as calm, composed, the royal who had finally learned restraint. Two opposite stories released side by side. Confusion wasn't an accident, it was the plan. The palace understood something most people didn't. Uncertainty sells. Every article, every debate, every online thread kept the monarchy in conversation. The more people argued about what really happened, the less anyone looked elsewhere. Social media accounts tied to the royal household suddenly lit up with cheerful photos of other family members attending charity events, smiling, waving, all warmth and grace. Classic misdirection. While the world dissected the microphone moment, the palace pushed out images of stability, proof that the firm was still untouchable. But behind the facade, there was tension. Some staff worried the strategy had gone too far, that turning the Sussexes into the story again risked reigniting sympathy. Yet the senior advisors knew exactly what they were doing. They'd seen it before: scandal distracts, scandal sustains, and scandal sells. By keeping Harry's status ambiguous, half prince, half exile, they made sure every appearance, every word became news, and maybe that was the real goal all along, not to silence the noise but to control the volume. As the palace tightened its grip on the story, the real damage began to show elsewhere. Inside Meghan and Harry's inner circle, silence spread faster than any rumor. Friends who once rushed to defend them online went quiet. Invitations stopped, calls weren't returned. It wasn't betrayal, it was survival. No one wanted to be caught in the middle of a storm that suddenly felt far more dangerous than gossip. Behind the scenes, tension between the Sussex team in California and Harry's remaining contacts in the UK hit breaking point. Each side blamed the other for what they called the microphone disaster. Meghan's camp claimed the palace leaked the story to humiliate her. Harry's old aides argued Meghan had created the chaos herself. What used to be a united effort to control their image had turned into finger-pointing and paranoia. Even business partners began to hesitate. Deals that had once seemed certain were quietly paused. Sponsors delayed announcements. Media producers who once fought for interviews suddenly needed more time. The couple's global brand, built on unity and independence, was starting to crack. Insiders whispered that Meghan responded by closing ranks, tightening control over who could speak for her, managing every word released to the press. She wasn't just defending her image anymore, she was protecting her power. Harry, though, seemed to be unraveling under the weight of it all. Sources close to him said he'd been reaching out to old friends from his royal days, not for publicity, but for something simpler, familiarity. People who remembered him before the spotlight turned into a weapon. For the first time, he wasn't sure which world he truly belonged to. Meanwhile, the palace remained silent, watching as the chaos unfolded from afar. Every new headline kept the couple relevant, but also trapped. It was a cruel balance, one that left them both visible and powerless. By the time the cameras stopped rolling, it was clear this wasn't just about a microphone. It was about control, identity, and the slow unraveling of a partnership once built on defiance. And what happened next would blur the line between public scandal and private war, because the story was far from over. For Meghan, this constant uncertainty has become a nightmare. Every time she appears in public, every gesture, every glance is magnified and dissected. For Harry, it's its own kind of prison, trapped between the life he left behind and the one he's still trying to define. Together, they're caught in a cycle the palace and the press quietly feed off, turning every moment into a headline while their image slowly unravels. But the aftermath of that night made things even worse. What began as a simple speech spiraled into something no one expected, a defining moment for the couple. Meghan stepping onto that stage wasn't just bold, it exposed something deeper. The silence that followed, Harry's refusal to pass her the microphone, and the media's quiet rewriting of the story revealed a fracture no one was meant to see. If things can appear this raw and tense in public, imagine what's unfolding behind closed palace doors. This story isn't over, not even close. And what comes next makes everything you've just seen look small in comparison. The truth about Meghan's hidden family twist left Harry completely stunned, and it ties directly to this moment. You don't want to miss it. Click the video next to uncover the full story.